Chapter 13. Fixing the nets.
What a nerve the fellow has.
What effect do you think it will have upon his plans now that he knows you are here?
It may cause him to be more cautious, or it may drive him to desperate measures.
Should we not arrest him at once?
Oh, we can prove nothing against him, only surmise and conjecture.
There is Sir Charles's death.
Found dead without a mark upon him. We shall need to take considerable risk in order to catch him out.
What do you propose to do?
I have great hopes of what Mrs. Laura Lyons may do for us, and I will put into action my own plan as well.
I could draw nothing further from him. And he walked, lost in thought, as far as the Baskerville gates. Are you coming up?
I see no reason for further concealment. But say nothing of the Hound to Sir Henry. Let him think that Selden's death was an accident. If I remember your report correctly, he's to dine with Stapleton tomorrow?
And so am I.
Then you must excuse yourself and he must go alone. And now I think that we are both ready for our suppers.
Sir Henry was more pleased than surprised to see Sherlock Holmes. Sir Henry, are the Barrymores still awake?
No, they turned in some time ago. Do you need something?
I must relate to them some news, but perhaps it's best to wait until tomorrow morning.
What has happened?
Selden is dead. He tripped and fell and broke his neck on some rocks.
Oh, poor Mrs. Barrymore. To think, if it wasn't to keep my promise to Watson and not go out alone, I should have been out there myself.
You received a message inviting you to Merripit House.
Why, yes. How did you know?
Watson informed me that you received one most days.
Have you made any progress with the case? I don't know that Watson and I are any much the wiser since we came down.
I think that I shall be in a position to make the situation rather more clear to you before long, if you will give me your help.
Whatever you tell me to do, I will do.
Very good. And I will ask you to do it blindly, without asking the reason.
Well, just as you like.
If you will do this, then I think the chances are our little problem will soon be solved. I have no...
Holmes looked over Sir Henry's head.
What is it?
Excuse the admiration of a connoisseur. These are a really very fine series of portraits.
Oh, I don't pretend to know much about these things.
That's a Kneller, I'll swear. That lady in the blue dress over yonder. And the stout gentleman with the wig ought to be Reynolds. They are all family portraits, I presume.
Every one.
Do you know the names?
Barrymore has been coaching me in them.
Who is the gentleman with the blue coat?
Sir William Baskerville. He was chairman of the committees of House of Commons under Pitt.
And this cavalier opposite to me, the one with the black velvet and the lace.
Now he is the cause of all the mischief, the wicked Hugo who started the Hound of the Baskervilles.
He seems a quiet, meek-mannered man.
He does indeed. If you gentlemen don't mind, I will turn in. I think I should get up early and give the news to the Baronet myself.
Of course. Good night, Sir Henry.
Yes, good night.
Do you see anything there, Watson?
The portraits? Am I supposed to be looking for anything in particular?
Is it like anyone you know?
There is something of Sir Henry about the jaw.
Wait an instant.
He stood upon a chair and holding up the light in his left hand, he curved his right arm over the broad hat and round the long ringlets of Sir Hugo. Good heavens! Stapleton!
You see it now. It is the first quality of a criminal investigator that he should see through a disguise.
But this is marvellous. It might be his portrait.
Yes, a study of family portraits is enough to convert a man to the doctrine of reincarnation. The fellow is a Baskerville, that is evident.
With designs upon the succession.
Exactly. This chance of the picture has supplied us with one of our most obvious missing links. I dare swear that before tomorrow night he will be fluttering in our net as helpless as one of his own butterflies.
I was up early the following morning, as was Sir Henry. But Holmes was afoot earlier still, for I saw him as I dressed coming up the drive. Morning, Holmes.
Good morning, Holmes. You look like a general who's planning a battle.
That is the exact situation. You are engaged, as I understand, to dine with our friends the Stapletons tonight.
Oh, I hope that you will come also. They are very hospitable people, and I am sure they will be very glad to see you.
I fear that Watson and I must go to London.
To London?
Yes, I think that we should be more useful there at the present juncture.
I had hoped you were going to see me through this business.
My dear fellow, You must trust me implicitly and do exactly what I tell you. You can tell your friends that we should have been happy to have come with you, but that urgent business required us to be in town. We hope soon to return to Devonshire.
When do you desire to go?
Immediately after breakfast. We will drive into Coombe Tracy, but Watson will leave his things as a pledge that he will come back to you.
I have a good mind to go to London with you. Why should I stay here alone?
Because it is your post of duty, because you gave me your word that you would do as you were told, and I tell you to stay.
Very well.
One more direction. I wish you to drive to Merripit House. Send back your trap, however, and let them know that you intend to walk home.
To walk across the moor?
Yes.
But that is the very thing that you have so often cautioned me not to do.
If I had not every confidence in your nerve and courage, I would not suggest it. But it is essential that you should do it.
Then I will do it.
And as you value your life, do not go across the moor in any direction save along the straight path which leads from Merripit House to the Grimpen Road, as is your natural way home.
I will do just as you say.
Very good. I shall be glad to get away as soon after breakfast as possible so as to reach London in the afternoon.
After breakfast, we bade goodbye to our rueful friend and made our way to Coombe Tracy.
Now, Watson, I think that we cannot employ our time better than by calling upon your acquaintance, Mrs. Laura Lyons.
So, we're not returning to London after all. Mrs. Laura Lyons was in her office, and Sherlock Holmes opened his interview with a frankness and directness which considerably amazed her.
I am investigating the circumstances which attended the death of the late Sir Charles Baskerville. My friend here, Dr. Watson, has informed me of what you have communicated and also of what you have withheld in connection with the matter.
What have I withheld?
You have confessed that you asked Sir Charles to be at the gate at 10 o'clock. We know that that was the place and hour of his death. You have withheld what the connection is between these events.
There is no connection.
In that case, the coincidence must indeed be an extraordinary one. I wish to be perfectly frank with you, Mrs. Lyons. We regard this case as one of murder, and the evidence may implicate not only your friend Mr. Stapleton, but his wife as well.
His wife?
The fact is no longer a secret. The person who has passed for his sister is really his wife.
He is not a married man.
I am sorry, but those are the facts.
Prove it to me.
I have come prepared to do so. Here is a photograph of the couple taken in York 4 years ago. It is endorsed Mr. and Mrs. Vandeleur, but you will have no difficulty in recognizing them. Here are 3 written descriptions by trustworthy witnesses of Mr. and Mrs. Vandeleur, who at that time kept St. Oliver's private school.
Mr. Holmes, this man had offered me marriage on the condition that I could get a divorce from my husband.
I am sorry to say that you were but a tool in his hands.
Ask me what you like. One thing I swear to you, and that is that when I wrote the letter, I never dreamed of any harm to the old gentleman who had been my kindest friend.
I entirely believe you, madam. The recital of these events must be very painful to you, and perhaps it will make it easier if I tell you what occurred, and you can check me if I make any material mistake. The sending of this letter was suggested by Stapleton.
He dictated it.
And then after you had sent the letter, he dissuaded you from keeping the appointment.
He told me that it would hurt his self-respect that any other man should find the money for such an object, and that though he was a poor man, he would devote his last penny to removing the obstacles which divided us.
And then you heard nothing until you read the reports of the death in the paper.
That is correct.
And he made you swear to say nothing about your appointment with Sir Charles.
He said that the death was a very mysterious one, and that I should certainly be suspected if the facts came out.
But you had your suspicions.
Yes, but I chose to believe it was coincidence.
I think that you have had a fortunate escape. You have had him in your power, and he knew it, and yet you are alive. We must wish you good morning now, Mrs. Lyons, and it is probable that you will very shortly hear from us again. Come, Watson. We have 2 hours before we need to think of starting. I think we might employ it in getting some dinner. We shall need all our strength.
Chapter 14. The Hound of the Baskervilles. After dinner, we set off. We passed Franklin's house and then the hall. My nerves thrilled with anticipation as we approached Merripit House. About 200 yards from it, Holmes halted us.
I can see Sir Henry and Stapleton, but not Mrs. Stapleton.
She is not in the kitchen. I can see only the housekeeper. Over the great Grimpen Mire there hung a dense white fog. The moonlight struck it, making it look like a great shimmering ice field.
It's moving towards us, Watson.
Is that serious?
Very serious indeed. Our success and even his life may depend upon his coming out before the fog is over the path.
He can't be very long now. It is already 10 o'clock. The kitchen light had been shut off. There only remained the lamp in the dining room where the murderous host and his guest still chatted over their cigars. Every minute that white woolly plane was drifting closer and closer to the house. Already the first thin wisps of it were curling across the golden square of the lighted window.
In half an hour we won't be able to see our hands in front of us.
Shall we move further back upon higher ground?
Yes, I think it would be as well.
So, as the fog bank flowed onward, we fell back before it until we were half a mile from the house.
Come on, Sir Henry. Thank God. I think that I hear him coming.
Through the fog, as through a curtain, stepped the man whom we were awaiting. He came swiftly along the path, passed close to where we lay, and went on up the long slope behind us.
Look out! It's coming!
The cloud was within 50 yards from where we lay, and we glared at it, uncertain what horror was about to break from the heart of it. Holmes stared, his lips parted in amazement. I sprang to my feet, my inert hand grasping my pistol, my mind paralyzed by the dreadful shape which had sprung out upon us from the shadows of the fog. A hound it was, enormous, cold, black, fire bursting from its open mouth. Its eyes glowed with a smouldering glare. Its muzzle and hackles and dewlap were outlined in flickering flame. With long bounds, a huge black creature was leaping down the track, following hard upon the footsteps of our friend.
Shoot it!
I am certain I hit it, but it did not even pause.
Quickly, Watson. If it cries in pain, then it is vulnerable and mortal.
We set off at as quick a pace as we were able. I was in time to see the beast spring upon its victim, hurl him to the ground, and launch at his throat. The creature rolled onto its back and finally fell limp upon its side. The giant hound was dead.
Sir Henry?
Thank God he is not injured.
In heaven's name, what was that?
It's dead, whatever it is. We've laid the family ghost once and forever.
This is no ghost. Phosphorus.
Very cunning. We owe you a very deep apology, Sir Henry, for having exposed you to this fright.
You have saved my life.
Having first endangered it.
What is it?
It would appear to be a bloodhound-mastiff combination. Stapleton used phosphorus to create the demonic burning effect.
Stapleton?
Yes. He was behind the whole affair. We will explain all, but time is of the essence.
What do you propose to do?
We will take you back to the hall, then leave immediately. We have our case, and now only want our man.
I'll come with you.
No, you're not fit for further adventures tonight. You will be perfectly safe now.
After depositing Sir Henry, we quickly made our way back out.
It's 1,000 to 1 against our finding him at the house, but we should search it and make sure.
We rushed in and hurried from room to room, but we could find no sign of him. On the upper floor, however, one of the bedroom doors was locked. There's someone in here. I can hear a movement. Holmes struck the door just over the lock with the flat of his foot, and it flew open. Pistol in hand, we rushed into the room. We were stunned to see a figure tied to an old worm-eaten balk of timber. In a minute, we'd torn off the gag, unswathed the bonds, and Mrs. Stapleton sank upon the floor in front of us.
Put her in the chair.
Is he safe? Has he escaped?
He cannot escape us, madam.
No, I did not mean my husband. Sir Henry, is he safe?
He is.
And the hound?
It is dead.
Thank God. Thank God. I tried to stop him. I believed I still clung to his love, but I have only been his dupe and his tool.
Tell us then where we shall find him. If you have ever aided him in evil, help us now and so atone.
There is but one place where he can have fled. There is an old tin mine on an island in the heart of the Grimpen Mire. It was there that he kept his Hound, and there also he made preparations so that he might have a refuge.
No one could find their way into the Grimpen Mire tonight.
We planted guiding wands, but with this fog...
It was evident to us all that pursuit was in vain until the fog had lifted. We went back to the hall and waited until first light. Mrs. Stapleton guided us through the bog. Once only we saw a trace that someone had passed that perilous way before us. From amid a tuft of cotton grass which bore it up out of the slime, some dark thing was projecting. Holmes sank to his waist and dragged out an old black boot in the air.
It is worth a mud bath. It is our friend Sir Henry's missing boot.
Thrown there by Stapleton in his flight.
Exactly. He retained it in his hand after using it to set the Hound upon the track. He fled when he knew the game was up and hurled it away at this point. We know at least that he came so far in safety.
But more than that, we were never destined to know. We at last reached firmer ground beyond. A staple and chain with a quantity of gnawed bones showed where the animal had been confined. But no slightest sign of our man ever met our eyes.
I said it in London, Watson, and I say it again now. And never yet have we helped to hunt down a more dangerous man than he who is lying yonder.
If the earth told a true story, then Stapleton never reached that island of refuge towards which he struggled through the fog upon that last night. Somewhere in the heart of the great Grimpen Mire, down in the foul slime of the huge morass which had sucked him in, this cold and cruel-hearted man is forever buried. Chapter 15. A Retrospection. Later that afternoon, we sat with Sir Henry in Baskerville Hall.
Now that Mrs. Stapleton has furnished us with certain missing facts, I can give a concise summary of the case.
Wait. Mrs. Stapleton.
I'm afraid so. Roger Baskerville, the younger brother of Sir Charles, is said to have died unmarried and childless, but he, in fact, married in South America and had one child. Stapleton's real first name is Roger, the same as his father. He married one Beryl Garcia, who became Beryl Baskerville.
Sir Henry sat in silence as Holmes recounted the whole story.
The saddest part of this black business is that you were deceived by Mrs. Stapleton.
What will become of Mrs. Stapleton now?
She will have to answer for her crimes. But she was certainly threatened and coerced, so perhaps the judge will act with leniency. And now, Sir Henry, we really must return to London and you need to rest.
Thank you, Mr. Holmes. And to you, Dr. Watson. I will never forget what you have done for me and my family here. I hope that you will both visit again once the refurbishments to the hall are complete.
We should be delighted. Goodbye, Sir Henry. We took a trap to Coombe Tracy, and from there the train to London. I hadn't wanted to ask in front of Sir Henry, but are you absolutely certain that Stapleton is dead?
In all probability. But certain, my dear Watson, no.